Hello and welcome to the Complete Podcast Network. I'm Anthony Wilson, recording from Los Angeles, California. I'm joined by my co-host David Galvis. Galvis, how are you?
What's up, Wilson? Happy day after the Super Bowl,
Right,
which which they say it should be a major holiday, but
right.
you know,
Yeah, I wondered if you would even, if we would even talk to you. You might take the day off, but no. So, yeah, obviously yesterday the Seahawks beat the Patriots 29-13 to claim the second Super Bowl in Seattle's franchise history. Kenneth Walker was the MVP. He had 27 carries for 135 yards. Also had two catches for 26 yards. Both of the quarterbacks were pretty pedestrian. Sam Darnold was 19 for 38, 202 yards and a touchdown. Drake May was 27 of 43 for 295 yards, two touchdowns, two interceptions. But pretty much everything he did was
Wilson,
no, huh?
Wilson, I hate to break it to you, man, but let's just get to we can get to that stuff. The game itself was probably one of the more boring games in recent memory. Everybody's talking about the halftime show. Let's talk about that, Wilson. Come on, nobody cares that that Drake May wet the bed. Everybody knew the Patriots was going to struggle against Seahawks offense, sorry, defense. So let's get on with the Super Bowl halftime show.
Okay. Can I please just say one thing? I just wanted to
Yeah.
say that um, point out the USC to Seahawks pipeline, which was, obviously Sam Darnold, the starting quarterback. Kenny Nwosu, who had the pick six there at the end. Leonard Williams. They also had Brandon Peely and Valus Jones. They had some guys on the staff who were from USC. And if you go back and you think about it, you look at it, you go back to, first of all, when they made the Super Bowl that time under Mike Holmgren, they had Lofa Tatupu. And then when Pete came, he brought Mike Williams on board. And obviously, when they won, Malcolm Smith was the Super Bowl MVP who went to USC. So the USC to Seattle Seahawks pipeline continues to pay dividends for the Seahawks. You know, but Galvez he don't want to even talk about the game because it did kind of pick up there in the fourth quarter though. Galvez, it seemed like
Oh yeah, for sure. If Drake May doesn't throw that stupid interception, they were down 19-7. It was only a two possession game with 8 minutes left. If they would have scored, then of course, it would have been a great game, but or at least a really good game. But um, like I said, definitely one of the more boring games in recent Super Bowl history. But
yeah, I thought it when remember when Darnold they were down they're down 19-7. They got the ball back. I'm sorry, what's his name? Drake May. He goes on that scrum for that long run. I'm thinking if they score again here, it's going to be 19-14, and Sam Darnold's going to have to make a play, and that's when things get dicey, right? But instead, May throws that interception, and it was pretty much that was pretty much the end of it basically. So yeah, but shout out to the Seahawks and shout out to the they call them the US Seahawks. So yeah, but now Gowan
and I'd like to pat myself on the back because I predicted exactly what was going to happen. Um, and I knew how it was going to happen. So yeah, shout out to me.
yeah, of course I was dead wrong. I thought the Seahawks were
Like
being
always,
I thought the Seahawks were being set up to fail and built up
should you even be a sports podcaster?
to
Because goddamn, you get everything wrong, bro.
yeah, I thought it was
Notorious. For those of you guys who and I hope you make a clip out of this, Wilson. You still have footage of the NBA Finals from 2020. Anthony Wilson famously said the Miami Heat were going to beat the Lakers in 5 games because they were just such a horrible matchup.
I think I at least
And
gave
then
Lakers 6 games.
you always completely just shit the bed with these predictions, man. You're
Right.
like Bill Simmons.
Yeah, I thought the Seahawks were being anointed a little bit too quickly. But yeah, the game pretty much played out the way people expected, where the Seahawks were basically just more talented than the Patriots were, and that was just pretty much it. and Sam didn't really have to do that much. The defense was so good, and Kenneth Walker was so good. So yeah, shout out to Sam, man. He's had one of the greatest reclamation or like career turnarounds that we can think of. You know, just like this guy
At
drafted,
quarter, as far as quarterbacks go, probably the greatest.
yeah, drafted by the Jets. That went nowhere, was usually happens with the Jets. Then bounces around, has the breakout year last year with the Vikings, and then this year, that didn't end well last two games, and they decided to move on from him and move forward with JJ McCarthy, which that got their GM fired, even before the Seahawks finished off last night. And just Harrison was saying, like, things would have been different for us this year if we'd still had Sam Darnold. And then he goes to Seattle this year and wins the damn Super Bowl. The man is 28-6 the last 2 years, 14-3, 14-3, and now he's a Super Bowl champion. I mean, what can you say? Hell of a story. Okay, Galvin, he wants to talk about the halftime show. Obviously, the halftime show.
I
Uh,
it's not that as men, right? As men, the halftime show was always something that was more for the women, right? It gave them something to look forward to because women just don't like football as much as men do, obviously. But it was always all about the Super Bowl show, the halftime show, or the commercials, or things of that nature. So, but this year, and obviously last year, because it was more of like a hip hop beef with Drake and Kendrick, so that was definitely something to talk about. And then this year, it was definitely very political, and so you know it was. But let me ask you, as a non-Hispanic, non-Spanish speaking person, what did you think about the show?
well, I thought that it was way. I mean, it was more entertaining than the game, to I guess say the least. I mean, the game wasn't a bad game. It was 12-0 at the end of the third quarter, all field goals. Most people would not be entertained by that. It picked up, like I said, a bit in the fourth quarter. The halftime show was inevitably coming in. The halftime show was probably being talked about more than the game, and I think that's continued even today, and will continue into the week. I thought that Bad Bunny put on the showmanship was incredible. The production was incredible. Probably the best production ever for a halftime show at the Super Bowl. Just because of it's the whole thing, the cornfields and the dancers and all the hot chicks and stuff like that. Now, of course, the two things I had an issue with was, number one, I couldn't understand a word he was saying, which most of the country that I would, well, at least the people, I don't know, like you said, it became very political, right? But it's like, what do you expect people to say? I wasn't mad, even though I'm a conservative guy politically, but I wasn't mad. I just didn't think it made any sense. Was I impressed? I should say, by the performance, yes, but I do wish I could understand understood what he was saying. But then the other thing was, there was just that one little part where you had the two guys like gyrating in front of each other. I didn't really appreciate seeing that, but but overall,
Come on, man.
what? I was telling the truth. I didn't want to see it. So, uh, but overall, yeah, it was. I mean, he's a great performer, and he's a big star. And I think for me, what it represented was, when I think of Latinos, that's what I think of. Just a bunch of hot chicks. Everybody's having a good time, dancing, listening to music, partying. The camaraderie is amazing, you know. And so yeah, I mean, I'm not mad at it. I know a lot of people are of a certain, delineation, I guess you could say. Obviously, they have the Kid Rock halftime show on Turning Point USA. That was for the people on the right. Like I said, I'm conservative myself, but I wasn't mad. I'm not that. You know, I'm not that extreme. But yeah, what were your thoughts on it?
So, as a Spanish speaking, obviously Hispanic, first generation of parents that were immigrants, there was a lot of like uh, things that you saw that made you proud, regardless of whether you're a conservative Hispanic or if you're a, because that's, I think that's one thing that Hispanics are, right? Whether you're super right wing conservative or leftist like liberal, you're a proud Hispanic, right? I think Hispanics are very proud of their heritage and all that. And so, regardless of where you stood on the issue, there was a lot of moments in in the show where you're like, oh, damn, like, it's our culture, it's our heritage, and it wasn't too political. Like I know if you like people pointed out where he made some references, but it was very subtle. It wasn't like it was like in your face. Like I mentioned before, it wasn't like yeah, people dressed up in ice, uniforms, and he was putting people in cages or kids in cages. So it was very subtle. I'm pretty sure NFL told them, hey man, you know, let's keep it, you know, um, let's try to keep politics out of it. But um, but I could definitely see where the non-Hispanic crowd, not necessarily that they didn't have that they had an issue with it, but more like it was hard for them to really rock with it because they didn't know what they were saying. Like it's like I said, it'd be no different if we saw the show and you muted it and the words were in French or the guy was speaking French. You'd be like, all right, looks dope, sounds dope, but what the fuck is he saying? You know. So it was definitely something hard to really rally around, especially like but Bad Bunny makes music where the beat and the rhythm is really good. He has a very unique voice. But I was just thinking the other day, Wilson. I mean, the only artist I could think of, dead or alive, where it's like universal, people wouldn't have an issue. Because I can't think of anyone today. It would be Michael Jackson.
Hmm.
Michael Jackson to me would be the only artist where it doesn't matter where you stand politically, racially, like it's Michael Jackson. He's the GOAT. But I'm thinking, who could they get for 2027 Super Bowl where everybody would kind of be like, all right, cool, because even Kendrick last year, right?
Hmm.
If you're not into hip hop or you don't really follow hip hop, I mean, yeah, Kendrick had a nice show too, but you can't really vibe with it. It's not your cup of tea.
Yeah, I think obviously, see the thing about it is that, like you said, not everybody's into hip hop. So the fact that a lot of people now in hip hop, like one half of the hip hop crowd hates Drake. If Drake got up there at the Super Bowl and gave a performance, I mean, there's a large percent of the country who doesn't care anything about the Drake Kendrick beef, and all they know that Drake is a huge star and he makes music that makes people feel good. That is not. That's kind of like you said, Michael Jackson. It's like he there was like he transcended color, right? He wasn't like as much as blacks love him. This Michael Jackson movie is coming out, and every all the blacks are excited. But you don't get that famous. Same thing as Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods. You don't get that big unless you're accepted by white people, you know. And Drake, the reason one of the reasons Drake became so big is because he is very popular with white people. Everybody likes Drake. Young people, at least that's what it was before this Kendrick beat. Young people,
And,
old people.
Wilson, and Wilson, let me stop. Let me add one thing on there. People who say they don't like Drake, they're closet Drake fans now because now it's like, oh, you like Drake? Okay, so you don't fuck with Kendrick, right? It's
Mhm,
become that,
mhm.
So there's not one person that can't in this world that can say, all right, they might not like his antics or they might think he's corny or whatever, but you can't deny the man's music.
Right, and he's. I mean, the Kendrick beef. That's almost 2 years. It's like a year and a half. Almost 2 years now. That's from when it started. And obviously the fallout has been what the fallout has been. But you're still talking about 2010, 2009, 2024. That's 14, 15 years of Drake being a superstar, making them like the other than Taylor Swift. You're talking about the biggest pop artist of the last 15 years. You know, it's 15 years really, because Thank Me Later came out in 2010. Anything with all these records, these are records that everybody knows, the big Drake records, you know. So if he gets up there at the Super Bowl and he performs these records, yeah, all the Kendrick fans and half of the hip hop crowd's gonna be like, well, we hate Drake now. There's a wave. I mean, Drake didn't become as big as Drake is just from half of the hip hop crowd liking him or not liking him. Because Drake is somebody who he's so big, or he has been historically, so big and so popular across races, across genders, across everything. If he gets up there and he performs those songs, the songs are the songs, hits are the hits, and people are going to enjoy it. Plus Drake is known to put on a good show too. Um, I don't think anybody, what Bad Bunny did, I don't know if anybody will ever be able to do that. As far as the showmanship and the production was just amazing. But it's Drake will get up. I don't think Drake would do it. But if he were, I think he's somebody who would be he put on a good show. Has Taylor Swift
Yeah.
ever done it?
So other than because if you think about it, but here's the thing, Wilson. If you're a 50-year-old white guy that lives in the suburbs and you don't even know Drake's music, that's the thing. Drake is like that for us. But there's nobody in today's
But even a 50-year-old
era.
white guy in the suburbs knows God's plan.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't think so. I don't like. Okay, so for example, my dad, he knows all the Michael Jackson was so universal. Wilson, come on. There's not. Come on, dude.
Your dad
God's
was a
plan
Michael
really.
Jackson fan?
Yeah, he loved Michael. They didn't like Michael Jackson. That's the thing. Michael Jackson, even if you didn't speak English, even if you're Asian who didn't speak a lick of English, Hispanic, European, African, uh, anywhere, bro. It was Michael Jackson, bro. That beat, the way the beat starts, it's just like I said, bro. Um, I don't think there's anybody in today's you know genre that a 50 or 60-year-old white guy you know will know. And then guess what? If you put a country guy, right? Well, what's the urban community gonna say? Ah, man, this shit is whack. They're just catering to the white guy. You know,
Yeah, you're right. I was thinking.
you can't put Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift is one of the biggest artists in the world right now. What do you think will happen if they put Taylor Swift on?
Yeah, um, you're right. I was thinking about that this morning about Michael Jackson because, like I said, the movie is coming out. There will never be another Michael Jackson. There will never be
No.
anybody who's that famous and that good and making music that everybody enjoys and just, I mean, and it's amazing that he died at 50 years old. We should have gotten at least 25 more years of Michael Jackson, at least to hear him tell his side of the story on everything, and get as much out of him as we could. And, now there's really not that many. Michael's dead, Prince is dead, Whitney is dead, Elvis is dead. It's like, we got a few left, Springsteen and people like that. But for the most part, I mean, damn, we're lucky that we came along when we did. And Elvis died before we were born. But yeah,
Yeah.
is that all you got on the halftime show?
Yeah, I mean that's just it was just interesting to see and to hear people's reactions online. And you know I don't think anybody hated the halftime show unless you're just a crazy right-wing lunatic and you just didn't like it because it was Hispanic, right?
Mm,
But I think anybody that you couldn't see the halftime show, like you said, you can't deny the presentation and the production and the color and the different people. It was definitely not boring. You didn't just stand there and just not do anything, you know.
yeah.
So
Uh, yeah, shout out to Bad Bunny. Now I wanted to say something about because we didn't talk about the trade that sent Gabe Vincent to Atlanta for Luke Kennard. Luke Kennard made his Lakers debut on Saturday in that Warriors game and seemed to fit right in. Something else that happened was after the game, because Austin Reeves in the 2 games back, I think it's 3 games back, he's come off the bench in all 3 games. They asked him if, after the game if he'd be okay with coming off the bench. He said, "I'll do whatever coach asks me to do." Do you think that that's something that would work? Austin is he's in a contract year,
Yeah.
and if he comes out coming off the bench and production drops, that could potentially hurt his numbers.
No, no, it won't. Because there's not anything Austin Reeves can or can't do right now that wouldn't. Everybody already knows his game. It's already been 2.5 years of him just ascending into this, like, really, really, for sure we know. Had he not gotten hurt this year, he would have definitely been an all-star, right? So there's no denying his all-star talent. He's in the prime of his career. He's a player that's going to age very well. Um, but like we always said, it really doesn't matter because we know he's going to be there to close the games, especially in the playoffs when they tighten their rotation to 8, sometimes even 7 players, right? It was like that's what Lamar Odom did. Remember when Lamar Odom was coming off the bench
Hmm.
and everybody was saying like, yeah, but he's your third best player. How's that possible? In this case, you could argue. Actually, you can't even argue. He's our second best player. There's no more. Oh, LeBron is the second option. No, it's already clear. Offensively, Austin Reeves is the second best player, and he's still gonna, even though he comes off the bench, he's not starting, but he's still gonna play starter minutes overall, and more importantly, he's gonna close the games. Um, and there's not one team in the NBA that will say, "Hey, look at his production second half of the season. It kind of came down a little. Should we not give him a max like, unfortunately nowadays in the NBA, if you're a second or even third option, you're getting max money. It's crazy,
Hmm.
you know? So I definitely don't. I think that's why he knows, he's not playing for a contract. His thing is, let me just stay healthy and, you know,
Um, do you have anything to say about uh, Luke Kennard?
Okay, so I didn't see Saturday's game. I'm not gonna lie. So I gotta see him, but he's exactly what the Lakers needed, which is 3-point shooting. Unfortunately, the Lakers, it just seems like every time they get a player for his specialty, all of a sudden he can't do that anymore. I
Well,
wouldn't be surprised if this guy, now that the Lakers have him, all of a sudden he's shooting 20% from three.
yeah.
You
Well,
know?
my issue with it was that they have, to me, it was like, okay, you got Luke Kennard, but the issue was not shooting. The issue was defense and athleticism. So to me, it's kind of like it's like if you had a cut on your arm and it was bleeding and needed a band-aid and you said, okay, well, I'll take the band-aid and put it on my leg. It's like nothing wrong with your leg, it's something wrong with your arm. So
I think because they didn't give up much to get him, it's like might as well just get some shooting. It wasn't like they gave up a really good off, like they didn't give up Vando or Hachimura, these wing defenders.
mhm.
You know, Gabe Vincent had already pretty much fallen out of the rotation, kind of, and but one person who I am kind of disappointed the Lakers didn't sign was Cam Thomas. I know he's more offensive minded, but like we said, I think it was off the air when we said, was it last year or a couple years that it was the Lonnie Walker game,
Mhm.
you know? And I feel like Cam Thomas definitely could have given us those moments, you know?
Yeah, I think did you ever get around to seeing that clip of LeBron when he hit that head nod to Gabe
No, I
in
didn't.
Brooklyn? He that was pretty funny.
And you said the funny thing is because he got traded right after.
Yeah, he got traded 2 days later. Yeah. Uh,
Was Vincent even in trade discussions leading up to that?
I don't think so. I just think they wanted him gone. And once LeBron did that head nod. And they were like, this guy's out of here for us.
Well, remember he said that about Dennis Danny Green. Remember there was that if that like LeBron was visibly upset after his team called a timeout, and then he goes, DJ out here jogging and shit. Don't get back on fucking defense. Yeah, they traded him. Or they released him, or they didn't resign him or something.
Right. Yeah, he was. They traded him after that. They traded him in Toronto, and he wanted. No, he already wanted. No, where did they trade him after that? I forget. But they did.
Yeah.
He only got 1 year here, and now he does the TV show. Um, shoot, you got to go yet?
No, no, I still have a few minutes. We're good.
Okay. Well, I wanted to say something about. Do you still pay attention to you? I know I'm bouncing back to football now, but do you still pay attention to USC football?
Um,
I know you went to a game last year, didn't you?
not as much. Yeah, I went to a game, but not as much. Like it wasn't like before where I knew their receivers, their running backs, maybe their tight ends. I didn't. You know, um, but no, why? Do they have an exciting signing or something?
No, they got Gary Patterson. Gary Patterson is a Hall of Famer for what he was the head coach at TCU for over 20 years, and he
Yeah,
made the
yeah.
College Football Hall of Fame. And now he's coming to USC to be the defensive coordinator. And that's just
Mhm.
another one of those things where like only USC could pull off something like that. Uh, but I think it'll be interesting because I've said before that I don't think when I look at their team next year, with them losing Makai Lemon and Jacoby Lane, I like Tunukai. I think he's ready to be the wide receiver one. But Jaden Miles, I'm kind of lukewarm on. I think he's okay. He's a good college quarterback, but I don't think he's great. But I just think that with Gary Patterson here to run the defense, the talent should be getting better because they got this top recruiting class coming that might not show up in year one under Gary Patterson because they'll just be freshmen. But I think with a guy like that running the defense, I think the best thing for USC to do next year against a really tough schedule is to run the ball. They have like a run first mentality. They have Waymon Jordan returning and King Miller. Back when we were coming up, guys, we had Reggie, we had Lindell, and they were just, I mean, obviously, we'll never forget those years, right? And so, Lincoln Riley, he likes to pass the ball, but I think it would be in the best interest of USC
Yeah.
if they were to take a run first approach uh, next year. Um, but that's just my 2 cents on it. I hadn't
Let me
said
ask you a question, Wilson.
it.
Let me ask you a question. Quick question: Is if USC doesn't make the playoffs this year,
Mm,
is Lincoln Riley? I mean, he's going to be on the hot seat for sure.
mm.
But he's been what here for 4 years, 5 years, maybe.
What is it? 4 years.
This is his fifth.
Yeah, coming up.
Um, what do you think?
I think that on the one hand, if they, because this is like they got Ohio State. Ohio State. We haven't played Ohio State since we've been in the Big Ten. Ohio State's coming. Indiana's coming next year to the Coliseum. You know, it's a very tough schedule, and so I think that if they start off slow, when people are already not happy with him, it's going to be tough. They still owe him over half of that money on that was $110 million, so that's part of the issue also. But I think it almost like they might be stuck with him because they have their one recruiting class coming in, and they have this new facility opening, and I just think that it's almost like if he can't do it, who's going to do it? And you can't fumble this momentum. They already lost to Son Longstreet. You know, you almost in a position where you have to see it through. Even if he keeps struggling, you almost have to give him the whole 10 years to see if he can do it. Because if he can't do it, who's going to do it?
Yeah,
I remember I talked about this when we were on here. We were on here when that happened. We were on the phone when he first came here, and I remember I was saying like, "Bro, we
yeah,
still, we still got Jackson Dart. We don't need Caleb Williams." Guy was like, "What are you talking about? Like, Lincoln Riley don't give a damn about no Jackson Dart. He's bringing Caleb Williams with him. It was like Lincoln Riley was big time. You know, so for him to come
yeah.
here and be struggling, it's like if he can't do it, then what the hell? And it's like someone I saw somebody say once that it took Jim Harbaugh a while at Michigan to finally get to it. So You might have to just
Yeah.
give Lincoln Riley a few more years, even if they go 6-6 this year. You might have to
Mhm.
just see it through and pay him, because
Well, well, and the problem is that the college football has now become like NFL free agency.
mhm,
They really, before it was all about 5-star recruits, but now that you can get a fourth, fifth year senior quarterback. But does USC have the deep pockets that, which I think they do,
you would
right?
think so, but
But but
they're not top 10 in
yeah,
NIL, I don't think.
no, and these coaches, their their lifespan and the coaches is getting shorter and shorter. So it's like, all right,
Mhm,
am I gonna play a 18-year-old freshman, even though he's a 4 or 5 star recruit,
mhm,
or do I want to get a proven 4 year senior or 5 year or even a 6 year nowadays?
mhm.
You know, so NIL has become more important than the actual recruiting class.
Right.
You know, so um, but yeah, it's interesting to see, especially now that they're in the Big Ten. But yeah, I gotta go, Wilson. So thank you guys for listening. I'll let Anto, um, sign off.
All right. So before we get out of here, just a reminder to hit that subscribe note. I'm sorry to hit that subscribe button next to the complete podcast network, and to follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at TC Pod Network. You can also send feedback and mailbag questions to Complete Lakers Podcast at gmail.com. We are out.